go for the final time. We are free! Oh, they make contact! A terrible crash! And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome here to our second road course stop of the season here at race number 11 of S10, the final season of the NNSCRA Snickers Cup Series. We are here live today as we head back over to the West Coast in the hills of California. It's wine country, and we're ready to go racing here today at Sonoma Raceway. 23 lap schedule today, and as opposed to Watkins Glen, when I said that we were going to go without the caution flags, and we actually did go under caution flags, today we are actually not going to have cautions out. This time I have confirmed it, and this time I won't look like such an idiot. So we're getting ready to go here. This is a track that is actually one of the few road course tracks where pit strategy actually really does come into play. This has happened several seasons where a driver will either pit early for fresh rubber, or he'll stay out and try and get it on fumes and then make a late pit stop and try and get the victory. And here is the time when drivers that consider themselves road course experts have an opportunity to be able to get themselves a win, and maybe that win could be their ticket into this season's chase for the championship. We've had 10 races so far and 9 different winners, which means there's technically only 7 spots left open for other drivers to get into the chase for the championship. But if we have more than those 7 winners, then of course it would come down to who's highest in points with their wins, etc. Tim Walsh, he had a great run last week at Texas, starting the outside of the front row for that race, was trying to look for his second win, couldn't do it. Today he starts again on the front row, this time on the pole position. Walsh still looking for his second win of the season to try and confirm himself a spot in this season's chase for the championship. But if he keeps up these good runs that he's been having and these good track position qualifying results he's had, we are more than likely going to be seeing him in the chase anyway. He'll start off alongside of a driver whose last win came at a road course. That was last year at Champs-Élysées, and that's Dylan Young, line up beside him in the 2 car. Brandon Gonzalez will line up in the 3rd position. Gonzalez has actually been dropping through the point standings, had a rather disappointing run last week at Texas, now finds himself 18th in points as defending champ. And then Austin Mongold has been a driver that has been definitely moving his way up in the standings. He has been quite a rookie this season, been taking to this series very, very well here at the very start of the season. He's already up to the 7th position in the points, and he has been pretty much for the last couple of weeks dominating as far as taking rookie of the race for a number of weeks. And then rounding out the top 5, that's going to be Sean Galligan for Tweenix Racing, another driver who's really been struggling this season. Actually comes into this race outside the top 35 in points. A win would certainly be in order for that Hartley-Pool Chevrolet, a driver that does very well when we come to road courses. So without further ado, we're going to go down trackside as California's own Lyndon Wright, driver the number 81, will deliver today's most famous words in motorsports.
Drivers, start your engines.
So here they go, just at the before the start finish line. Gonna take them a while to get around this very windy, elevation changing road course. This track, I would try and point out where the trouble spots are, but just about every turn is a trouble spot. Up here at the top of the hill, this hard right-hander, always a trouble spot. The hard right-hander just before the S's is a trouble spot. The S's themselves could be a trouble spot. The exit of the S's is a trouble spot. And then, of course, the paperclip-like turn 11. So there's a lot of places for drivers to get in trouble here today. And like I said, with no caution flags, these drivers really have to be precision ready And if they do get spun out or something, they've got to try and recover as best they can. Points coming into this race, John Citadino still keeps the points lead by 6 points over a new second-place driver in standings, and that is Joshua Michaels, who, if I'm not mistaken, is actually a former winner of this race. I think he won this event back in Season 8. So keep an eye on that 04, as he's been on quite a streak as of late. Dylan Poteet's third in points, 13 points out of the top spot. Dougie Shears last week moved up to fourth in the standings. He's 14 back, and Joshua Collard is 15 back in fifth. Michael Norman is 6th in the standings, 17 back. Austin Mongold now 7th. He's 20 points back. Trent Dunham fell to 8th after a horrible run last week. He's 23 points out. Jacob Lawler, our winner last week at Texas, works his way up now into the top 10 in points in 9th. He's 26 points back. And Benjamin Miles is the last driver in the top 10, 27 points out of the top position. So 27 points separating the top 10 in standings. That's actually pretty doggone close. And we'll see what happens here. One other thing we got to follow is Richard Johnson. After his win a couple of weeks ago at Talladega, that win moved him into the top 35 in points. He's got to get into the top 30 in points in order to make the chase. Well, last week, not exactly the best of finishes for that 47 team. He's fallen back outside the top 35 in points. Now, if he does not get that car up into the top 30 in points by the time the chase comes around, doesn't matter if he went to victory lane at Talladega or not, he will not be making the chase for the championship. So that 47 team going to try and see if they can use today's race to bounce back. They're rolling off from the 12th position. A couple of other drivers that have a win this season that are kind of flirting with that. Brandon Gonzalez, of course, we mentioned he's dropped all the way down to 18th in points. He needs to regroup today. He's actually won at this track before. It was a Mobile Cup Series race back in, I think it was Season 2. And Jessica Shelton, our winner from Watkins Glen, has dropped all the way down to 26th in points. She needs to get back up in the standings here to avoid elimination from being in this season's chase for the championship as well. I mean, a driver can have as many wins as they please, 4, 5, 6 wins, and still be outside the top 30 in points, and they will not battle for the championship. They have to be inside the top 30 in points. It's a new rule that NNSCRA mandated this season. But anyway, we're ready to go racing. It'll be green flag all the way to the checkered flag, but doesn't mean that wrecks aren't going to happen. But Tim Walsh, Dylan Young are ready to get us underway here today at Infineon Raceway, or Sonoma, whatever you want to call it. It's the same difference. Tim Walsh got a good jump, and I think he's going to be able to clear Dylan Young coming off this first corner. First corner is normally where a lot of trouble takes place. Looks like everybody got through it okay. So Tim Walsh to the lead. Whoa! Overdrove the corner there. Right out of the get-go. Dylan Young going to try and capitalize and go to the inside. Walsh, though, going to get the run again off the high side. And nice recovery there by the AAA Insurance Toyota, as he'll keep Dylan Young in his rearview mirror. Dylan Young now about to maybe get a challenge from Austin Mongold. Now Mongold tucks back in line in third. Brandon Gonzalez in fourth, and Austin LaPlante now has moved to fifth ahead of Sean Galligan. Dylan Young's off track now as he gets some of the dirt through the S's. That's going to bring everybody right to his back door, and now the top 6 are all bunched up. Here's one of the places where a lot of passes are going to be made, right down here in turn 11. Dylan Young gets to the inside of Tim Walsh. Going to try and make the move. Will Walsh be able to battle back? I don't think he's going to be quite able to. Dylan Young's got him cleared. New leader in the first lap of the race will be led by Dylan Young in the Blue Deuce. See if anybody's run into trouble yet. Doesn't look like it. Looks like everybody's still going. So we made it through one lap without drivers wrecking, as Dylan Young now paces the field. Tim Walsh, who had the pole position, loses it early, and now he may end up losing another spot. Austin Mongold starting to reel him in. It's a battle for second. Austin LaPlante now up to the 4th position. James Qualls is now in 5th. Galligan back to 6th. Oh, we had some skid marks right there through that corner. Oh, and Bob Jones is on pit road. So somebody did have something happen. 27 of Bob Jones. Oh, Dylan Young messed up that corner again. Gets off track now. That's not exactly a terrible thing for a driver, because they are able to save it, but the bad thing for them is that when your car gets off track, there's no grip out there. And so your tires are literally almost spinning, and that's going to kill your speed, and that's going to allow other drivers behind you to reel you in. As you see, the gap closed up between Dylan Young and Tim Walsh. So apparently Bob Jones, the first victim of Sonoma today on pit road. I believe he's the only driver that's on pit road right now. Yeah, and I saw that skid mark. You'll see it down here. They got to come through some of these hilly parts, and then they come to a right-hander, then a straightaway, and then another right-hander. Well, right in that straightaway area is where I saw the skid marks, and that's where I can only assume was the incident that involved Bob Jones. I see some skid marks there in that corner. I think Bob might have gotten turned and then came down to this section. Right there you see the skid marks in this straightaway section. Now I'm expecting that early on these drivers are going to kind of settle into a rhythm. They're going to be a lot more give and take. We'll see a lot less battling for position, as they're just going to ride around, see what they got, and try and survive until pit stops. So like Austin Mongold got off track there a little. That brings Austin LaPlante right to his back bumper. That'll be a brewing battle for third. Heading down here into turn 11. Whoa! Mongold gets loose off that corner. Almost collected Austin LaPlante. And now LaPlante going to dive bomb into turn 11 for that third position. James Qualls right behind there in the fifth spot. Mongold gets the run there, and there's a car on pit road. Looks like Michael Norman. That is Michael Norman. This is awfully early to be making a pit stop. I don't know if this is scheduled or not, but I think this just took him off the lead lap. It did. So maybe it was Michael Norman and Bob Jones who got together or something, as Norman now will merge back on track with the field. So now Michael's got to hope this thing will cycle back around for him when these drivers have to come to pit road. There's the driver that won the last time we were at a road course, Watkins Glen, Jessica Shelton, winning it on fuel mileage. Right now she's up in the 19th position. There's Trent Dunham. Right now just outside the top 10 in the 11th position. This is a run that he definitely needs. Trent Dunham has been on a bit of a skid as of late. Whoa, a lot of dust kicked up there. Someone got off track. I think it might have been Stephen Pollard III. As you see P2 London now trying to take what would be the 9th position away. But for Trent Dunham, he's been on a skid. He was leading the points, and then he lost the points lead to Joshua Collard. Then John Citadino took over the points lead. As a matter of fact, we should actually try and find out where the 72 is running in just a moment here. Is now, battle is on for fourth. Austin LaPlante falling into the clutches of James Qualls. Sean Galligan and Richard Johnson right there as well. And we got a possible battle for the lead brewing up again. Tim Walsh has been able to reel back in the Huggies Ford of Dylan Young. So as I look at the running order right now, there's another driver that's in trouble and a long ways back, and that's Chris Dollerton. So that's 3 of the 4 Michael Norman Motorsports cars that have, I guess, run into trouble or something. Dollerton is a long ways back, and oh my goodness, look at how far off track he just went. Either that car's not handling to his liking or something is desperately wrong with it. But we got Bob Jones, who I think is now retired from the race. You got Michael Norman, who's now a lap down after making what I can only assume was an unscheduled pit stop. And then you got Chris Dollerton here, who's just about a straightaway ahead of the leaders there. So I don't know what's going on with any of those machines. We're going to find out very soon, hopefully. But, interesting. So Dylan Young continues to lead. This is big for Dylan Young, too, because Dylan comes into this race just barely inside the top 35 in the standings. And he hasn't won yet this season. He's actually scored 33rd in points. He's 108 points out of the top position. As a matter of fact, up until this point, Dylan Young has only one top 10 finish. That's a very unusual stat for Dylan Young. Although when I think about it last season, even though, you know, you gotta give credit to the fact that there were over 120 drivers last season in Snickers Cup, but oh wow, Dylan Young did not look good through the S's right there. It looked like his car was really loose, and now Tim Walsh gonna go around for the lead. But Dylan Young, even though he did have that win last season at Champs-Élysées, really wasn't much more to say about him last season. Really wasn't up there fighting for the lead an awful lot. So Dylan Young really is just trying to get that 2 car and that 2 team back on track here, as he's now lost the lead, and Tim Walsh now becomes the new leader. pole sitter has to wait till lap 7 before he finally leads a lap here today at Sonoma. Battle on for 4th. James Qualls had it. Sean Galligan wants it. Richard Johnson right behind. The car missing there is Austin LaPlante. He has slipped all the way back now to the 9th position, as Sean Galligan's going to power around. Whoa, Richard Johnson gets off track. He'll lose a spot. That's to Benjamin Miles. There are 2 drivers I've been really impressed with, or actually 3 drivers in the last couple of weeks. Joshua Michaels, Austin Mongold, and this driver, Benjamin Miles. Michaels has worked his way into the top 10 to 2nd. Mongold's worked up to 7th, and Benjamin Miles has worked his way up into 10th. And don't forget, Hendrick Dowley Motorsports picked up their first win of the season last week with Jacob Lawler. Benjamin Miles would like to make it 2 in a row for the Hendrick Dowley Motorsports team. And pit stops are taking place. All the leaders are coming in. Tim Walsh, Dylan Young, Mongold, Qualls, Galligan, Johnson, Miles. I think I saw Trent Dunham committing to pit road as well. Is anybody going to risk it, stay out an extra lap here? Looks like everybody is still from the rear of the field going to come in, and Michael Norman staying out. This will help him to maybe get back onto the tail end of the lead lap, and maybe if he can cycle around quickly enough, he might be able to get up here with these guys and maybe pick up some positions. So first round of green flag pit stops take place on lap number 8. And we definitely saw a lot of drivers slipping and sliding around out there. Dylan Young, Austin LaPlante, Stephen Pollard III. So fresh rubber is apparently going to be very key here. A little bit of a longer stop for Tim Walsh. Now comes out just ahead of Austin Mongold. There might have been some contact actually between those two, as they're going to come back onto the racetrack, and Dylan Young gets out ahead. I don't know what it was that they spent a little bit more time on the 15 car about, but whatever it was, it's going to cost him. He's now going to actually lose second place to Mongold as well. They were beating and banging coming off pit road, were Mongold and Walsh. And look at Trent Dunham now up there into, I think that would now be scored the 5th position behind James Qualls. Whoa! Contact there between himself and his teammate Sean Galligan. That was close. Last thing you want to see are 2 teammates tangle. But of course we saw that happen at Bristol a couple of weeks ago between some Tweenix drivers as well. Whoa, Trent looks loose through that corner. Wow, held on to it though. Nice done job there. Benjamin Miles hounding Sean Galligan. That would be, I believe, now a battle for 7th. As the pit stop cycle around, it should be Dylan Young as the leader. And we got to wait for the official scoring. I do not think anybody stayed out on that cycle of stops. Dylan Young gonna cross the line as the leader. Second place Mongold, Walsh in 3rd, Qualls 4th, Dunham 5th. Then you got Galligan, Miles, Levi McIntyre has now cracked the top 10 in the 99. There he is, with William Duncan and Anthony McCurry there. That's the top 10. Nice run there for Levi McIntyre. McIntyre been very quiet this season so far. And according to my notes here, he comes into this race outside the top 35 in points as well. So 2-time winner last season. Oh, he just forced Benjamin Miles off track. Benjamin Miles has just hit the wall in the S's. There's no caution, obviously, because there are no yellow flags on, but McIntyre just pushed him, and there's some skid marks there in the S's as well. There's been some more contact that's taken place. John Cittadino, the points leader's on pit road. Michael Norman is on pit road now with Charles Sanford damaged. And Austin LaPlante's now at the rear of the field. So after the cycle of pit stop, stuff is starting to go down. We have not yet reached the midway point of this race, but a lot of stuff has gone down before and after our cycle of first round of green flag pit stops. Dylan Young is the leader now over Mongold, Qualls, Walsh, and Dunham. Let's take a look at a replay of everything that's taken place up to this point. Alright, let's first take a look and see what happens to the 27. This was all the way back on lap number 1. He'd qualified himself in the top 10 for the start of this race. 7th place, I believe, was officially where he started the race. He's got to get awfully wide through that corner. And I think he was trying to get off of James Qualls, and Pichu London's right behind him, and Pichu's going to turn him. And Bob Jones' car, there's the skid marks I had said I had saw, and oh, hard into that wall. And I think the car was stuck, but then there has to have been something else that took place in this corner. And I almost wonder if it might have started with London? No. Oh, there we go. This is skid marks, Dollarton. Dollarton, Shears, and Matthews. It's easier to get to the car this way. I apologize. I try and not do that. Seems a little more unprofessional, but gotta do it. Oh, yeah, they were almost like 3 wide off going into this right-hander. And I think Kyle Matthews thought he was going to be clear using the high line against Dougie Shears. Dougie snaps loose, clips the 24 down into the 33. So that's why Chris Dollarton was so far off the pace and in danger of going a lap down. And why Kyle Matthews was so far at the rear of the field at the time. So this was all the stuff that happened before the pit stops took place. But then a lot of stuff takes place afterwards. Let's take a look at those incidents now. And here it was, through the S's, Kyle Matthews, John Cittadino, both running near the rear of the field. And it looks like John is going to get up on the rumble strips. There's some contact between himself there and Kyle Matthews, and then the two of them slipping and sliding through the S's. John Cittadino just trying to hang on. Tries to bring it back up on track. Kyle Matthews is already there, and Charles Sanford is already there as well. And then John Cittadino gets the rumble strips again. Car gets airborne, so he has no control, and then he slides into Charles Sanford. It's hard to see there with the smoke. And there goes Sanford hard into the wall there just ahead. And you can't even see him. There's Sanford. And then there's Michael Norman. Now, I don't know if he was involved in that or... Oh, wow, he was. Oh, Charles Sanford was trying to come back up on track. I don't think Norman was able to see him. And... bam. Wow. Michael Norman already was damaged from an earlier incident. And boy... hard into Charles Sanford. And then, if we take a look, here's what happened 1 lap later with Levi McIntyre, Benjamin Miles, a battle for 7th right there. Levi just gives Benjamin no room. Oh, and Benjamin hard hit into the wall there. And a driver who has been so consistent in the last couple of weeks almost literally gets taken out here of this race here at Sonoma. So this is going to be a tough points day for Benjamin Miles, as well as John Cittadino and several others. Let's head back for live action now. Dylan Young continues to pace the field here. We are now past the halfway point. They just took the line, or hit the line for lap 13 just moments ago. It's Dylan Young, Austin Mongold, James Qualls, Tim Walsh, and Trent Dunham. That's the top 5. Galligan, McIntyre, Duncan, McCrory, and Washer are now the top 10. Top 5 have kind of separated away from 6th place Galligan. As far as the drivers that we saw involved in all those incidents took place, Chris Dollarton still running, tail end of the lead lap, I believe, in the 37th position. John Cittadino and Charles Sanford are both 1 lap down. Sanford right now scored in 39th. Cittadino right now scored in 38th. Austin LaPlante is on the tail end of the lead lap, but he's a long ways back, and so too is DJ Curtis in 35th. Not certain what happened with either one of those machines. James Silverfox got some damage on the left side of his machine, right now 34th. Kyle Matthews, who we know was involved in that earlier incident, right now in 33rd. And Brandon Gonzalez is going to hit pit road here. Anybody else come to pit road early? Nope, only one was Brandon Gonzalez. So the strategy begins. Tim Walsh, Trent Dunham, battling for the 4th position. Both drivers, former winners this season, trying to pick up their 2nd win of the season here. Top 3 have not yet found victory lane this season. Matter of fact, only 2 in the top 10 that have gone to victory lane are in 4th and 5th, Walsh and Dunham. Seth Cole has now just cracked the top 10. There he is. Chris Washer moved up to 9th. Seth Cole moving up to 10th. Who was the driver that fell out of the top 10 is the question. Not rightly sure. Someone else get involved in an incident here? Jacob Lawler's coming to pit road. Jessica Shelton, Seth Cole. William Duncan's on. Dylan Young and Austin Mongold. So the lead will cycle over to, I believe, James Qualls. It will. Trying to see if anybody else got involved in something. There's Levi McIntyre. I think he pitted. Austin LaPlante now coming to pit road. Matthews, Silver Fox, Wells, Buchanan, Collard, Daly, Wright, Jackson, Henley is in. There's last week's winner, Jacob Lawler in. Pichu London has to wait for William Duncan. Stephen Pollard III also in. Golden Dylan Young trying to get their service completed as quickly as they can. There's Joshua Michaels. Right now scored in the 16th position. Now he's the one that could stand to maybe take the points lead away from John Citadino based on the hard luck Citadino's had so far. I think if things were to cycle out, I think he'd be scored somewhere just around maybe the 10th position right now. Is now Tim Walsh behind James Qualls is coming in. Trent Dunham, Galligan, McCrory, Washer, McLeod, Richard Johnson, Cody Lamas, Ryan Acosta, Johnny Gardner, Poteet, Hudson, and Michaels all coming in along with Dougie Shears. William Duncan. I think he might have had a very slow pit stop or something. I don't know if he's ahead of Mongold or not. Gotta wait till this whole thing cycles out to find out where anybody even is. There's Dylan Young. He had apparently a slow stop. He's back here with Cole Daly, Sean Henley and company, but again, we don't know where those spots are until everything is cycled around. Here comes James Qualls off pit road. Currently scored as the leader. And I don't know if he'll cycle around as the leader or not. William Duncan is either he's the leader or he's on the tail end of the lead lap now. Maybe due to that slow pit stop, having to he kind of held up Pichu London on pit road. Now we'll see here if the lead cycles around to Qualls, and if so, is Levi McIntyre in second? Or is William Duncan the leader? I don't know. Charles Sanford, I think, on the tail end of the lead lap now. Who's the leader of this race? I almost wonder if it might be the 83. He was scored in 6th last time by. So something leads me to believe that maybe the number 83 Dodge of William Duncan is the leader. Second place would be Qualls and Levi McIntyre. In third is now Charles Sanford going to hit pit lane. John Citadino's on pit road as well. There's another car on pit road. That's Zach Buchanan. Zach Buchanan's damaged. Problems for the 09. And at the line, it is William Duncan, the leader. Qualls is second. McIntyre, I think, should be third. He is. Fourth place is Mongold. Dunham is fifth. Lawler is now up to sixth. Galligan's seventh. McCrory's eighth. Ninth is Washer. Walsh is now all the way back to 10th. Lyndon Wright's now 11th. McLeod is in 12th. Pollard 13th. 14th is Shelton. 15th Richard Johnson. Then it's Cody Lamas, Ryan Acosta, Seth Cole. Chris Dollarton's now up to 19th place. Quite a comeback for him. And Johnny Gardner now is in 20th. Oh, battle for, that was I think for the 13th spot. It was Shelton moving by Stephen Pollard III. Another battle maybe heating up here for 6th. Sean Galligan trying to take that spot from Jacob Lawler. This has been a good battle. It's gone on for the last couple of laps ever since they came off pit road. James Qualls in second, Levi McIntyre in third. But it's all going on behind the new race leader. Well, was the new race leader. William Duncan's on pit road again. Now, why is William on pit road again? That's the question. He just came down pit road. Oh my god, they're telling me that he missed his pit stall. That's why... Wait, no, he couldn't have missed his pit stall. I don't know what's going on. They're saying that something happened as far as the pit stall entry. Whatever it is, it's going to cost William Duncan a shot at this victory, I would be sure, because next time around it's 5 laps to go. James Qualls now inherits the lead. Levi McIntyre is second. Third place is Austin Mongold, Dunham in fourth, and then it's a long gap back to the 5th place car of Sean Galligan. So I don't know, it may come down between Qualls versus McIntyre, and Qualls got off track a little there. Levi going to start to reel him in now as he kept all 4 of his tires on the racing surface. James Qualls has already been to victory lane this season, but it was the non-points event of the Sprint Unlimited. Last time Levi McIntyre went to victory lane, if I'm not mistaken, it was... I want to say Arizona Speedway last season. I also know last season he won the Great American Race Daytona 500. Well, Young Motorsports had a driver out in front earlier on. That, of course, was Dylan Young. Now they got Levi McIntyre up here, who may be able to close the deal for Young Motorsports. And of course, as I mentioned, Levi McIntyre coming into this race outside the top 35 in points. This is going to be a big run for him. For James Qualls, I believe it's the same deal for him. Yes, it is. James Qualls comes into this race outside the top 35 in points. So both of these drivers really need a win or the solid finish that they are right now in line of getting. Qualls slides off of that corner way wide. Levi McIntyre going to get a big run, and here he comes. Couldn't make the move that time, had to tuck back in line. Now the reason Levi did that was for 2 reasons. One, because I probably was uncertain if he could even make the move there without hitting the rumble strips and wrecking them both. But 2, he didn't want to mess up his entry into that turn. Otherwise, he would have been the one to slide wide. He probably would not have been able to be within striking distance of James Qualls. 4 laps to go here at Sonoma. Things are winding down. We're going to step aside really quickly for a couple more replays. We're first going to see what happened to Zach Buchanan. Then we're going to try and figure out why William Duncan had to come down pit road for another pit stop. James Qualls leads Levi McIntyre here as we are getting down to the closing stages here at Sonoma. And it's going to be the exact same thing that we saw happen to Benjamin Miles in the S's. Zach Buchanan, that time that was actually more Zach's fault than anything. He slid through the S's into Johnny Gardner, and the contact was made, and hard into the wall goes the Golden Corral Chevrolet. Hard impact there for Zach Buchanan, who's been free-falling through the points. Fell to 31st in standings after last week, and now maybe in danger of falling outside the top 35 as he hit the tire barriers through the S's really hard. And we have finally been able to get word from the 83 team why he came back down pit road. Watch right here. This is pretty much the reason. I don't know why they decided to, but they went with only the left side tires on the Five Nights at Freddy's Dodge Charger. They did not go with a full 4-tire stop like everybody else had been doing. And the word that we got was with how much sliding around and how much brake these drivers have been having to put into their cars, it was a flat right rear on the William Duncan machine that caused him to have to come back down to pit road. They felt the tire going down. He had to come back down, and that is what cost William Duncan a possible shot at winning this race. So a tough break there for the 83 team, but now we know why William Duncan, 1, was able to get out so quickly to the lead when he really wasn't up inside the top 10 for most of this race, and 2, why he had to come down pit road once again. Well, James Qualls continues to lead the field here. It'll be 2 to go next time by. 1 driver missing from the top 10 is Levi McIntyre. And he is now all the way back at 26th. Had to make a pit stop. So our driver's having to pit here in the latter stages. There's Brandon Gonzalez as well on pit road. And Austin Mongold's coming to pit road, giving up second place. So yes, some drivers are not able to make it on fuel apparently. Jessica Shelton is now coming to pit lane. She was scored 10th last time by. Seth Cole is now in. Here comes Pichu London, Charles Jackson, Cold Alley. So again, like typical Sonoma, the final stages of this race are going to come down to fuel mileage. Who's got enough to get to the end? James Quall's going to risk it at least this time. He's staying out. 2 laps to go for the 70. Sean Galligan staying out as well. Trent Dunham, Anthony McCurry, Tim Walsh. And then it's McLeod, Johnson, Washer, Acosta, and Lamas. That's the top 10. Can James Qualls milk it around? He's got about 4 seconds in hand over Sean Galligan. Galligan, another driver outside the top 35 in points, really would love to have a win. Can he reel in James Qualls? Or do either of these drivers have enough fuel to get to the end? Here we go. Is Qualls coming to pit road? He is not. Is Galligan coming to pit road? No. Are any of these drivers coming to pit road? Nope, these are the gamblers. They're going to try and stretch their fuel to the end. White flag will be displayed this time for James Qualls. Will they all make it, or will they all run out of fuel like exhausted bats before they get to the start-finish line? James Silverfox just completed a stop. He'll be much quicker than James Qualls is, so he won't be a factor in this, I don't think. Qualls trying to milk that number 74 Travel Chevrolet for ML Motorsports around this racetrack. The elevation changes have got to be the hardest part for him. It's when he gets to the S's that'll be better. He'll be able to maybe kind of coast a little with it being a downhill slope. But Galligan did close up the gap by about 3/10 on him that last lap. Here we go. James Qualls down the hill. Can he coast it? Can he save just enough fuel to get himself to the end? Galligan trying everything he can. If I were Galligan, I'd go all out now. Qualls off track a little bit there. A little bit of a dust screen for him. Kicked up by some other drivers. It looks like he got through it clearly, and now he's heading down here to turn 11. James Qualls now just has to hit his marks. He's got a huge gap between himself and Sean Galligan. Now he can coast if he wants to, I think. James Qualls. He won the Sprint Unlimited, but he'll finally pick up a points win here today at the road course of Sonoma. James Qualls takes the checkered flag at Infineon. Started the race, I think it was in the 8th position. Kept himself in the top 10 all day. Inherited the lead after the pit road miscue by William Duncan and never looked back and was willing to stretch it. You look at some of these names of drivers that stretched it on the fuel. You got James Qualls, Sean Galligan, both outside the top 35 in points, and Anthony McCurry, 28th or 27th in standings. These drivers really needed to risk it. They had to go in all or nothing because they are really in very critical positions right now in the point standings, and they really needed something to change their luck, and that was a great strategy by all 3 of those drivers to finish top 3 here today. Trent Dunham, Tim Walsh, why not risk it? Worst thing you can do is you don't finish well, but you've already got a win in the bank. So Trent and Tim, that was great strategy for them. They get 4th and 5th. James McLeod, I think this is his best finish of the season, as he gets a 5th or 6th place finish. 7th place to Richard Johnson, so this could move him back up inside the top 35. Remember, he's got to make his way into the top 30 in order for his win at Talladega to even count into getting him into the chase. Chris Washer, solid run for him in the 8th position. Ryan Acosta going to get 9th, and Cody Lamas in 10th. Those 10 right there, they were the gamblers at the very end, and that's why they finished where they did. Now my question is, what's it going to do as far as the point standings? Because Trent Dunham, that was a great run for him in 4th. But he came into the race 23 points out. So where did the other drivers that he's competing against, where did they finish? Joshua Michaels, 12th place today. My goodness. This guy has been on a tear. He didn't finish top 10, but he finished solid. And if I'm not mistaken, he started near the rear of the field for this race. Going to get 12th today, and that might be enough to take the points lead over. I think it actually is because of what happened to John Cittadino. Dylan Poteet, 12th place today, so that'll keep him in contention up at the top of the standings. Austin Mongold, 17th. Jacob Lawler, last week's winner, got 19th. As we look further down here, you got Joshua Collard 27th, but he's been falling through the points last couple of weeks there. And Brandon Gonzalez, 30th place here today for him. As you look all the way down here at the rest of the finishing results, John Citadino, the points leader, finished in the 38th position, and Michael Norman finished 15 laps down in 41st. We had only 6 drivers out of the race and off the lead lap. Or actually, make that 4 drivers out of the race, 6 drivers off the lead lap. Charles Sanford, John Citadino finished off the lead lap, but still running. Zach Buchanan, Benjamin Miles, Michael Norman, and Bob Jones all finished out of the race. But James Qualls picks up the victory here today. And now he's going to be kind of in the same boat as Richard Johnson. He's got a win, but now he's got to make his way into the top 30 in the point standings. So he's going to have to get some really good consecutive finishes in the next coming weeks to be able to get himself into contention for a spot in this season's chase for the championship. But once again, folks, thanks so much for watching today's race here at Sonoma. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a like, subscribe to become part of the crew today. We will now show you your full finishing results from today's race at Infineon, your rookie points and your overall points heading into next week. Don't quote me, but I believe next week we end up going to Charlotte. I might be incorrect in that assumption, but I think that's where we're going. We'll find out when we get there. So once again, folks, we'll see you guys next time. You've been watching production of NNSCRA, offline racing at its best. I was attacked by the mafia and the serial killer, and I was hunted by the jester. I died! Oh, what? What? Whoa! What the? The arson. Whoa! Stop it, a whammy, a big whammy. An arsonist! The arsonist one!
Motion with the tears. I think he's good. He doesn't know you. Where you going? Can I just now?